Hello, my name is Peter Bricks. I'm a debtor bankruptcy attorney in Atlanta, Georgia, with offices in Jonesboro and Cumming as well. We're going to talk about 1099s in bankruptcy, but first let me offer this disclaimer. We're a debt relief agency proudly assisting consumers in filing bankruptcy. This message is intended only for educational purposes. We'd have to meet with you individually to offer you applicable and accurate legal advice. There is no attorney-client relationship with the viewer of this message. We're going to talk about 1099 in bankruptcy today. Uh, so when you get a 1099, theoretically that is you're going to have to pay income taxes on that. However, the question is there an exception to that? Well, first let's take someone who didn't file bankruptcy or is contemplating bankruptcy, and this is where you're trying to settle your debts as opposed to filing bankruptcy. One of the things you want to consider when you're settling your debts is um, are you going to be able to afford the tax consequences of settling the debt? So you owe $10,000 and you settle a debt for $3,000. There's $7,000 of debt that's been forgiven. So you're out the $3,000 that you pay to settle the debt. Additionally, you're going to get most likely a 1099 for $7,000. Now there are some reasons you might not get one. And with everything that's being said here today, I always advise people to run it by their accountant first before settling it, um, uh, and going over some of these tax laws. But you are theoretically going to get a 1099 for $7,000. So of course this will be based on your income. What amount did you incur in tax debt? At that stage, I don't know if you just reduced your refund, now you're out of pocket in taxes or what, but you've incurred some tax liability on that $7,000. So you have to consider that when settling it. Now, if you settle it outside bankruptcy, don't file. Obviously, if you settle it, it doesn't make much sense to file bankruptcy because why are you settling, a dischargeable debt if that was, say, a credit card debt, and then turning around right away and filing bankruptcy. But let's say let's operate on the assumption you're not filing bankruptcy. The question is, do you qualify for insolvency to get you out of that 1099? Or maybe there's some other reason you get out. It was a disputed debt or something of the sort. There's IRS Form 982, and you might qualify under that. Again, you need to run this by your accountant, whether you qualify or not. So you really should know before settling whether you're likely to have to pay taxes on this or not. And also remember, whereas the debt you settled, if say a credit card debt was dischargeable in bankruptcy, tax debt is non-dischargeable in bankruptcy unless it's a certain status. It's old enough, so it's going to have to be at least 3 years past due. So this tax debt you just incurred is nowhere near dischargeable at the moment. So you now have 1099 and you settle it, you didn't file bankruptcy. As we discussed, you may or may not have to pay that. You have to discuss whether you qualify for the exception. If you do file bankruptcy, you could theoretically get some 1099s even though you filed bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is insolvency. So bankruptcy, assuming you qualified and got a Chapter 7 discharge, you will get out of the 1099 consequences based on your insolvency, which was defined by the fact you filed bankruptcy and got a discharge. So then you don't have to really worry about that you would have a tax hit in that scenario. Um, so the question, therefore, what you're deciding is when you're settling these debts is you really want to not only consider the amount of offer on the table, whether you can afford to settle, you also want to consider the tax consequences and understand that if you do file bankruptcy, you won't really have to worry about the tax consequences because you'll have gotten out of those by the insolvency that is your bankruptcy.